everybody, and welcome back to BVM Sports Chalk Talk. I'm Lucas Semb alongside Scott Procter and Matt Morris, and we are ready for a good show today that will center around the NBA. We will be naming our end-of-the-year award winners with the play-in postseason games now underway. Players' cases for the MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and amongst others are officially closed, so we will pick our winners. We will also talk some NFL with the schedules having been released recently. But let's stay with the NBA to get things started. Scott, who do you have as your 2020-2021 NBA MVP?
Yeah, Luke, I completely understand the MVP case for Nikola Jokic. He's having a historical season for a big man statistically. And, I said this a few weeks ago on the From Deep podcast available, where all podcasts are available. But Jamal Murray's injury might give NBA MVP voters no choice but to vote for the Joker, because the Nuggets have played so well since Murray's absence and now sit at the number 3 seed in the Western Conference. But I happen to believe that your impact on winning and your overall dominance when on the court matters more when it comes to the MVP race than, say, playing every single game of a season like Nikola Jokic has this year, which is why Joel Embiid remains my pick for NBA MVP. He's played in 52 of 72 games this season, and missing those 20 games is the only knock on his MVP resume. Never mind the fact that he's top 5 in scoring this season, something the Joker can say, and averaging 29 and 10, and is the anchor of a top 5 defense, again, something the Joker simply can't say. He's the best player on the best team in the Eastern Conference, a conference that features Kevin Durant, James Harden, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Jimmy Butler. Not to mention, before I pass it to you, the fact that the second best player on the Sixers, Ben Simmons, is somebody who can't and won't shoot. I rest my case. I assume you guys think otherwise, but Joel Embiid is the NBA MVP, and try to tell me otherwise without talking about games missed. What's up, Matt? Talk to me.
Well, first of all, you're downgrading, I think, the rest of that roster that everyone on this panel right now has always complimented. Ben Simmons' refusal to shoot has not limited his ability to help the team out quite a bit. And I think that as much as Joel Embiid has been a leader on that team, I think that it's been proven and shown that you lose Joel Embiid, the Sixers can survive and they could still be successful. You lose Nikola Jokic, most valuable player on his Nuggets team. Jamal Murray by himself cannot do that. What Jokic is able to do as the leader and the go-to guy on this Nuggets team is run everything. He's averaging 26 points a game, 10 rebounds a game, almost 8.5 assists, and almost over 1 steal per game. He has career highs in points, assists, rebounds, and minutes. He's averaging almost 40% from 3 and over 50% from the field. And he ranks number 1 in league history in most games with over 10 plus assists as a center. He is not just a center like Embiid is, who is genuinely a true center. And it's nice to see in this modern NBA where you don't see a center like Embiid anymore. Jokic is more than that. Jokic is a guy that you can run your offense through, and just as likely as he is to get 20 points, he's just as likely to get 10 assists and be the facilitator for his team. And he's led, you credit the East for having so much star potential. He's led a West-heavy, Nuggets team into the 3 seed over there and helped them through a season-ending injury with a guy that is clearly his number 2 and in Jamal Murray. So I think it has to be Jokic. And to your credit, you said that Jokic has a great chance of winning it. I think I can understand Embiid's point, but Jokic just has to be the MVP for me.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with you, Matt. I understand Embiid's case, but it's just not as good as Jokic's case. He's 3rd in total points this season, 5th in total rebounds this season, and 3rd in total assists. He joins Elgin Baylor and Wilt Chamberlain as just the 3rd player ever to finish the regular season top 5 in each category. That just shows true dominance. He is kind of a sieve on defense, I'm not going to lie. But playing with that Nuggets team and showing his true dominance on the offensive end has showed that it does not matter in his case. He has led the Nuggets with Jamal Murray out. You made the point with that torn ACL. Jokic played the best basketball of the year without Jamal Murray. He averaged 27, 10, and 8. They were 16 and 8 without Jamal Murray. He just showed that he is truly that piece that cannot be missed. And to mention, Scott, you're kind of downplaying, missing games or playing games. If you're missing games, you're not available to your team. And I've always been told availability is the best ability. You need to be there to win games. You need to be there to be able to put up stats consistently. I don't care what you do in, 52 games. If you can do that 72 games, that shows some true MVP power. He would be the first MVP to do that since Kobe Bryant in 2007, 2008. Jokic is putting up numbers that we just quite honestly haven't seen in over a decade. So I don't know.
So you guys did not bring up games missed, and you almost did it. Matt definitely did it, and Luke, you almost had it there until the end. But you're talking about games played. Joel Embiid has still played 72% of the Sixers games this season, which is more than the 70% of games Bill Walton played when he won the MVP in 1977, 1978. And aside from that, the only time either of you mentioned defense next to Nikola Jokic's name is when, Luke, you just said he's a sieve on defense, and that's being nice. He is still a turnstile a lot of the times defensively, despite being 7 feet tall damn near. And this is the last thing, the biggest thing to me. It will not be a good look when Nikola Jokic is accepting the MVP award in a hallway instead of before a playoff game like Giannis did here recently. The Nuggets are probably not going to escape out of the first round, despite the fact that they are the 3 seed, because it won't have a lot to do with Nikola Jokic, to be honest. But that's just the reality situation. And again, with Joel Embiid, he is sitting atop the Eastern Conference because of himself.
And you see the Nuggets
you see him, Scott, because I know we talked about this in the production meeting, so I apologize for moving ahead a little bit sooner than we might want to. But you're talking Joel Embiid on defense. Does it not help that he has your defensive player of the year on his team?
It absolutely does.
And to that point,
but let me answer. You asked me a question.
You said earlier,
you asked me a question.
Anchors that defense. Joel Embiid anchors the defense.
And Matt, I want to hop in here.
How is Ben Simmons winning Defensive Player of the Year on a team where he's not even the number 1 defender?
Scott, you see the Nuggets losing. You see the Nuggets losing to whom in the first round?
You know who they play first round. They play the Trailblazers, a team that you said can make a lot of noise in the Western Conference.
I don't think that matchup with the Nuggets is a very good one for them.
But you said the Portland Trailblazers can make noise in the Western Conference and win a series or two. Did you say that, yes or no?
I absolutely did. Okay. And it obviously would be based off a matchup. And this is not the matchup that they won in the first round.
Why not?
There is nobody on that team who is going to be holding down Jokic in the playoffs in a 7-game series. There's just not a chance they can move forward.
And who exactly is guarding the Trailblazers backcourt of Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum? Because it damn sure ain't Nikola Jokic.
No, it's not. I have seen.
Getting off topic. Explain why Joel Embiid.
I have seen Facundo Campazzo absolutely dog Steph Curry all year long.
What did you ask me?
He is a great defender. He is a player who's going to play a huge role in there. He's honestly part of the reason, and this is moving past the point of MVP, but Facundo Campazzo is a part of the reason that they have been able to stay as successful as they have been. He has played unbelievably well.
Luke, I completely agree. I think he's been a top 8 or so rookie this season. He's been spectacular in a lot of spots on both ends of the floor. But to your point, Matt, what I was going to say with the question you asked me and didn't let me answer, yes, Ben Simmons is my pick for Defensive Player of the Year. We'll get into that in a minute. And it doesn't impact Joel Embiid's impact defensively because I also believe Joel Embiid is a top 5 Defensive Player of the Year candidate. And I've also said as much last week on the From Deep podcast. His ability to block shots and impact shots, whether he's getting a hand on them or not, is very similar to Rudy Gobert, who I know you guys think so highly of. And again, it's part of the reason those two in conjunction, Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid, is why the Philadelphia Sixers are one of the 5 or 6 best defenses in the NBA by every metric. So, again, like I said, I understand the case for Nikola Jokic for MVP. I don't want to downplay his game, but like I said, it'll be sad when we look historically that Nikola Jokic, he's going to stand out like a sore thumb in the history of MVPs. And again, it won't be a good look when he's sitting in a hallway, not in the NBA playoffs anymore, accepting MVP award, while Joel Embiid is still going to be chasing a title.
We're talking about most valuable player to their team. And you're telling me that when a team has not just one MVP candidate, has 2, in your opinion, Defensive Player of the Year awards, that overall waters down Embiid's effect because he has such a great amount of talent around him.
What do you mean a great amount of talent?
As much as you want to pretend like those games don't matter, he missed 20, to your point, he missed 25% of the games, and the 76ers did not falter as the number 1 seed. And over the last few years, we've been hearing nothing. It's always about who has the most help around them, who doesn't have enough help around them when we talk MVP. And if we want to stay with that and assume that that's what the voters are thinking, Nikola Jokic has the lesser of the 2 supporting casts. And even you could go as far as saying that Doc Rivers is a better coach than Mike Malone.
Hey, no more here. We have to transition. We have more to talk about, but as we transition, I just got to fit in one last jab here. You mentioned Bill Walton playing 70% of games and winning the MVP. That's because there was no one playing at a Jokic level. That's why Joel Embiid will not be winning the MVP this year. But let's move on.
Please move on from that.
We got to move forward. The most improved player award. The most improved player award, all 3 of us unanimously agreed on Julius Randle, who has turned into a true all-star this year. So there's not much to talk about there, but we'll have plenty to talk about here with the defensive player of the year. Matt, who do you see taking that award home?
I think it's Rudy Gobert. I think similarly to some of the arguments I think Scott will make, Rudy Gobert anchors one of the top defenses in the league and the number 1 team out in the West. Rudy Gobert has been a guy that just completely shuts down the paint for the Jazz. And not just that, he's great on the pick and roll. He's first in defensive rebounds, first in blocks, first in defensive win shares. He only allows 28.8% shooting when in the post, playing post-up defense. And he also is unbelievable when he has to switch on the pick and roll and guarding ball handlers. I think overall—
What do you mean by unbelievable? Unbelievable, is it not that great, right?
He plays unbelievably well. He's only allowing 0.67 points per possession when defending a pick and roll ball handler. That's the 93rd percentile.
I can name like 2 centers off the top of my head who are true centers, better switching off pick and roll to guards and forwards.
Yeah, but we're not talking them. We're talking Rudy Gobert, and he's playing unbelievable. And it's not just his ability to guard, a guard on a pick and roll. It's his ability to anchor one of the best defenses in the league and the number 1 seed out in the West. And to the point, I mean, his numbers are the best out of anybody in the NBA overall in most defensive categories. And so that's why I think Rudy Gobert has to be your vote for Defensive Player of the Year.
I hear you on that, Matt. I expected you to say a lot of things that you said, but there's not a better, more versatile defender in the NBA than Ben Simmons, and it's why he should win Defensive Player of the Year. Rudy Gobert, to your point, is the only other player with a legitimate case other than Bam Adebayo by my standards, but neither of those can guard 1 through 5 with the same level of effectiveness that Ben Simmons can. It became clear to me earlier this season in February when he put Luka Doncic in jail and held him to one of the worst games of his pro career, 7 turnovers, which was more than the 6 field goals he made that game. Damian Lillard, Bradley Beal, I've seen him lock up those 2 among others. Whoever Ben Simmons' assignment is that night is in for a long night. And again, he's a major reason, to my point, along with Joel Embiid, for that top 5 defense. And the icing on the cake is that he dropped a career-high 40 on the head of Rudy Gobert early this season without Embiid on the court and despite not being known as an offensive weapon. We know exactly where Ben Simmons scores from, and it's where Rudy Gobert should be elite at defending, and Gobert couldn't do a damn thing.
See, I hate when people do this. I hate when people do this because he holds opponents to 28% field goal percentage in the paint. One good game, you cannot dismiss someone's case off of one good game from an opposing team. You can't do it. And obviously, we talked about this on the From Deep podcast, available wherever you get your podcasts. We talked about how this came with a lot of, he was inspired because that conversation, Defensive Player of the Year, him and Gobert. He came inspired and he wanted to do something.
Sure, he sure was. Rudy Gobert clearly wasn't inspired because he allowed 40 points. Again, you guys are talking about 28% around the rim. Rudy Gobert knows exactly where Ben Simmons is going, and he couldn't do a damn thing. So, yes, I can use this.
Okay, and then there was a game where Ben Simmons talked about how great he was on defense, and he allowed Kyrie Irving to drop 30-plus on him. You want to bring up specific games, every defender in the NBA, no matter how great they are, is going to give up a 30 ball because that's how great the offense is in the NBA.
So let me ask you a question, Matt. Let me ask you a question. Is Kyrie Irving and Ben Simmons on the same level offensively?
Well, to your point,
please answer my question
40.
quickly. What?
Ben Simmons can offensively score just as well.
As who?
He's not as versatile as Kyrie Irving, but Ben Simmons can score.
Get to your point.
It's so interesting that you don't want us to talk about games, like 25% of the games when we talk Joel Embiid, but you want to bring up one game.
There's a
One very egregious example where we can use the specific example of the
one
two
specific game.
defensive player MVP candidates going head to head.
I'm going to bring in
a specific example as an example.
I'm going to bring in even another example. This season, Nikola Jokic dropped 22 points in a quarter on Rudy Gobert. And that still does not make me dismiss his case. That just happens. Matt said it the best.
I wouldn't use that as an example either, because Nikola Jokic is an elite offensive threat. If he scores 20 and a quarter on anybody, that's what it is. If Kyrie Irving scores 30 on anybody, that's fine. But if Ben Simmons drops 40 on your head, how are you a defensive player of the year?
When Ben Simmons came into the league, he was known for what?
So interesting, because you're at one point talking how great Ben Simmons is, and then completely disregarding him when you want to bring up Joel Embiid.
Exactly.
Like, what is going
about
on?
him offensively and defensively?
When Ben Simmons came into this league, he was an elite offensive fast break scorer. And that's how he scored a lot of his points on the Jazz in that game. He is a guy who's going to get a rebound. He's going to push the floor because he's faster than everyone. You can't tell me it was on Rudy Gobert's head. He scored plenty of points on Rudy Gobert, but a lot of those points came off fast break buckets. He's going to get a couple buckets inside. It's Ben Simmons. You can't say he's that sorry. He can't shoot. That doesn't mean he can't score.
I don't know. Maybe I just been listening to you too long, Luke, this season, and hearing you talking about how sorry Ben Simmons is offensively. So maybe you just rubbed off on me a bit. But I'd love to hear your pick for DPOY. I think I know who it is, but what's up?
Yeah, it's obviously Rudy Gobert, and I'm going to sound like an echo of Matt, but he's the anchor on one of the best defenses in the NBA and the number one team in the entirety of the NBA. And he's the head man of that. And the big thing for me, regardless of the win shares, regardless of the blocks, regardless of the rebounds, when teams play against the Jazz, the whole scheme gets changed. They game plan completely differently because you cannot attack the Jazz the same way you would any other team simply because of Rudy Gobert down in the paint. If he's not blocking a shot, he's altering a shot. And a big part of defense is closing out the possession with a rebound. And Gobert does that at a higher clip than anybody in the league. He does exactly what you need from your big man. A true big man, a classic big man with this sort of impact in the league today is winning Defensive Player of the Year. And another thing is looking at that Jazz roster. We talked about this again on the From Deep podcast when we did our award show last week. The Jazz have serviceable defenders, but nobody that stands out like Gobert. So for them to be where they are in terms of defense, a lot of that is on the shoulders of his defensive skills. So I think, regardless of how he's going to defend off the pick and roll, and he's actually, Matt, bringing up that point, done it at a better rate than I thought he had all season long. It's impressive, and you just have to give the award to him. But here's another one that's going to be really interesting, and I know we both disagree on this again. How about Rookie of the Year? Scott, let's hear your case for LaMelo Ball.
Yeah, I like to stay consistent, and it's easy to do so when you're right. Listen, LaMelo Ball has been my Rookie of the Year since about the All-Star break for the same reason Joel Embiid is my MVP. Impact on winning. In a league where it's so hard to make an impact on the win-loss column as a rookie, LaMelo Ball has done that for Charlotte, and they are very live to escape a play-in scenario because of him. The Hornets roster on paper is not one that should make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, especially with a relatively unproven head coach, yet they set it to the 4 to 5 seed for the majority of the season because of LaMelo Ball until obviously his
I disagree. Their head coach is a disciple of over in the Popovich, excuse me. He's a disciple of Popovich. They have Gordon Hayward. They have Miles Bridges.
What's that coach's name, Luke?
What?
What's that coach's name?
Popovich.
The Hornets coach.
James Borrego.
All right. Anyway, the Hornets sat at the 4 or 5 seed.
You think you're going to stump an NBA guy like that? You're not going to do that to me.
Hey, good stuff, my boy. Good stuff. I thought I was going to get you. But anyway, the Hornets with Gordon Hayward and Terry Rozier and James Borrego leading the way, they still sat at the 4 or 5 line for the majority of the season, largely due to LaMelo Ball. And obviously his wrist injury honestly adds to his case for Rookie of the Year to me, because the fact that he came back to finish this season probably before he should have, probably before he was fully healthy, is even more reason why he's deserving of this award. He's already one of the league's best passers. He's a human highlight reel, like Ant Edwards is, just in a pass first, more efficient package. Not to mention, talking about Ant Edwards, who I'm sure you guys will mention, who I love. I think he should come in second place in Rookie of the Year voting. The T-Wolves are one of the league's 5 worst teams in the league, with much more talent on paper than the Hornets do. And again, with the games played that I'm sure you guys will bring up, LaMelo has missed about 21 games this season, which would still have him at more games played than Vince Carter and Patrick Ewing when each of them won Rookie of the Year in their respective seasons. So LaMelo Ball is obviously my Rookie of the Year. He should be a runaway. It should be damn near unanimous. Tell me about that, Matt. What do you think?
No, I understand. I mean, I love LaMelo Ball. I like what he's done with Charlotte. I disagree to some extent because I think that we've always considered the East as a weaker conference, and the fact that the Knicks and the Atlanta Hawks are a 4 and 5 seed kind of, suggests that. So we could debate all day whether, the Hornets, who have always hovered around the 8th seed anyways and have been somewhat of a, playoff contender, even with Kemba and those guys, you could argue how much, LaMelo added to that. And I agree that he definitely added a lot. But I just think it's Anthony Edwards because if you look at the overall, what he's been able to do on a lesser team to that point has been just impressive. And you talk about the other 2 guys they have. Well, Cat was out with injuries a decent amount of time. D'Angelo Russell was out with injuries a decent amount of time. Mm-hmm. Only recently have they really been able to, with the Timberwolves, put their full roster to the potential that it's had.
And their front office, I have to mention, Scott, their front office right now is comparable to the Cleveland Browns a couple of years ago. They are mixing it up big time.
Went through a bad coaching.
Head coaches, they're selling the team. It's an
issue. I have to cut in there because, Lucas, I agree with you, and I brought it up on this show. And the reason I lamented that front office one of the reasons I lamented that front office and what they were doing is not looking right is because they drafted Ant Edwards instead of drafting LaMelo Ball.
Yeah, you already had D'Angelo Russell as a starting point guard, and you needed a 2 guard to go with him, and that's what Anthony Edwards has done. He's done it great. He's averaging over 19 points, 4 rebounds, almost 3 assists, half a block, and 1 steal. Since March, he's averaged 23 points, 5 rebounds. He's shooting 45% from the field and 34% from long range. And that during that time, the Timberwolves have doubled their wins from the previous beginning of the season, winning 16 when they only had won 7 earlier. He's the first 19-year-old in NBA history to have 40-plus points and 5-plus threes in a game. He joined LeBron James and Kevin Durant as the only teenagers in NBA history to have 40-plus points, 5-plus rebounds, and 5-plus assists in a game. He's the youngest player in NBA history to reach 153s. He's the 4th rookie in NBA history with 170-plus three-pointers. He led all rookies in games played, points per game, 2nd in total steals, 3rd among rookies in total rebounds.
I say you rest your case, Matt.
He recorded at least 1 steal in 25 straight games. Edwards is on a terrible team. That should not discredit his ability to have an effect on the game and what he's been able to do and live up to the hype that is a number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft.
Exactly.
The guy is a tear.
And to make my case, I had Anthony Edwards as well. He didn't even come into the league as a shooter. He came from Georgia with potential through the roof after 1 season of just hammering it on guys. And he is turning into a good NBA shooter, both from the field and from deep. And like Matt said, he averaged 19, 5, and 3 this season. LaMelo averaged 16, 6, and 6, only very slightly better percentages. Nobody blew the other out in terms of pure statistics, but one did play 68 games and the other played 47. And that's Anthony Edwards again playing 68 games.
LaMelo Ball played more than 47 games this
season. He didn't. And in fact, while LaMelo was out, that is when Anthony Edwards went on his tear. You mentioned it, Matt, after the All-Star break, he was averaging 23 points on better percentages from deep and from the field. He was playing when it matters, leaving an impression on voters that he is a walking highlight reel. While LaMelo was sitting, he was playing his best basketball. And that's the last thing people should be thinking about.
And he was named Rookie of the Month this year.
You know what?
Right.
The last thing people are
this
going to be thinking about is seeing LaMelo Ball play in the play-in. That's probably what the last thing they're going to be thinking about, not Anthony Edwards sitting at home with 16 wins in the Minnesota Timberwolves. You're talking about he played his best when it mattered. What game mattered for the Timberwolves this season? I don't remember any game that mattered.
The best for the award. I'm not talking about for the Timberwolves. We're talking about Rookie of the Year. So in terms of winning that award, he was playing his best basketball when it matters. So I don't want you to try to flip that. When Joel Embiid was out for the 76ers this year, they were 10-11. When LaMelo Ball was out for the Hornets this year, they were 10-11. So that right there is very telling. And
wait, can you repeat that again? Luke, can you repeat that? You said the Sixers without Joel Embiid were 10-11 this season?
Correct.
But weren't you guys just telling me that the Sixers kept themselves afloat without Joel Embiid?
Yes. When you're playing 500 basketball without the MVP, you
mean below 500 basketball without the best player. You guys said that they stayed afloat and looked great. I'm just confused.
The Hornets, who you just said are awful, they have not a good roster. We're playing 500 basketball without the Rookie of the Year.
I said they're awful without a good roster.
To your point, hey, Scott, to your point, the 76ers look great because Simmons dropped 40 on Rudy Gobert.
Exactly.
What are you talking about?
Without they lost that game because Joel Embiid wasn't on the court.
When you don't have the most valuable player on the court for almost a month and you're playing 500 basketball, that's staying afloat.
Okay.
But otherwise, and the other thing that we talked about, and I know that this doesn't win awards, but Anthony Edwards, and you have to agree with this, just has a winning personality. He's already become one of the league's must-watch press conference guys. He's just so likable. I don't know how you couldn't.
Okay, Luke. Okay, Luke, you brought that up, but I got to push back because you're right. Anthony Edwards is probably the genuinely funniest dude in the NBA. But LaMelo Ball also has a bubbling superstar personality. The dude is hilarious. The dude has been in front of a camera since he was a kid. So he definitely has the superstar Rookie of the Year personality as well, to your point.
Right. But as we wrap up here, we're going to transition. We've all agreed unanimously on Jordan Clarkson as sixth man of the year, at least our sixth man of the year, for his scoring prowess off the
Absolutely.
bench.
And shout out Derrick Rose as well, as sixth man of the year. He deserves some votes as well for that.
Absolutely. But as we wrap up NBA talk here, let's hit real quick. Just give a quick little spiel on who you got for coach of the year and executive of the year. Matt, why don't you get things started?
I mean, mine's kind of a twofer because I went Suns all the way with this. I think that Monty Williams in his second year as the head coach for the Suns has been unbelievable, taking a team that was 34-9 last year and made a decent push in the bubble to try and make the playoffs. He's completely turned them around. And now they are the fourth best offense, the seventh best defense in the league, and they're the second seed in the West. It is unbelievable. And then to that point, I credit James Jones a lot for giving his second-year coach all the weapons he needs and the ability to, with a young roster, to add veteran leadership and a floor general in Chris Paul and then Jay Crowder, which were the two biggest parts that the Suns added during the offseason. I think both groups working together as a true front office connected with the coaching staff has allowed the Suns to be the surprise team, I think, in everyone's minds this season. And that's why you can't discredit one with the other because they worked in tandem so well. James Jones gave Monty Williams the pieces, and Monty Williams used those pieces extremely effectively.
Not much argument from here for me, Matt. Excuse me. I like both of those picks a lot. Monty Williams is a top 2 coach of the year candidate for me. Tom Thibodeau would get my vote. What he's done with the New York Knicks this season is spectacular. Talking about a perception change. The New York Knicks were the bottom of the NBA for most of the last decade. And Tom Thibodeau has come in and completely turned that around. Has the New York Knicks playing defense at a high level, which is so hard to do at the NBA, getting guys to buy in on the defensive end. And again, the New York Knicks at number 4 in the Eastern Conference with Julius Randle, RJ Barrett as the 2 best players. That says a lot about them. And, I'm right with you there on executive of the year with James Jones. I love what he's done, the former pro, getting into the front office and doing things the right way with the Phoenix Suns. Bringing in Chris Paul is the single best offseason addition that happened this season, and it's paid off dividends. They now sit at top or right near the top of the Western Conference because of it. The addition of Jay Crowder was huge, and also him having belief and trust in Monty Williams to run that team and take them to the next level can't go understated as well. So, Monty Williams gets my vote for executive of the year, but Tibbs gets my vote for coach of the year. Luke, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going with Quinn Snyder for Coach of the Year. This is going to be the Jazz's best season since Karl Malone and John Stockton for the Jazz. And what's impressive about it is that their roster is completely the same as it was last year. They didn't add anyone crazy. They still lack a true superstar, in my opinion, but they're the best team in the league. So it's probably boring to people to see them at the top of the league, being the Jazz, but that's some true dominance that Quinn Snyder has shown, and it should not be overlooked. And then for GM of the year, give me Daryl Morey with the 76ers. Of course, Doc Rivers deserves some credit, for being putting them over that 2 or 3 seed hump and getting them finally to the number 1. But Daryl Morey put the perfect pieces around Embiid and Simmons this season in a short amount of time since getting there in November. He paired them up with, the likes of Seth Curry, Danny Green, Dwight Howard, and he hit on his first draft pick in Tyrese Maxey, who in their regular season finale had like 30.6 rebounds and 7 assists.
He's a dog.
It seems like every time he plays, he puts up numbers like that. He's going to have a heck of a future in the NBA, in my opinion. But I got Morey for Executive of the Year, and that'll be it for NBA Talk. We will be back with more Chalk Talk, and when we return, we will talk NFL. Stay with us. Welcome back to Chalk Talk, where we are going to discuss the newly released NFL schedule by highlighting some of our favorite matchups this year. Scott, why don't you get things started? Which matchup are you circling on your calendar this season?
Yes, sir. Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback of all time, versus Bill Belichick, the greatest pro football coach of all time, for the first time ever. Need I say more? Gillette Stadium will be electric for Brady's return to Foxborough, the house he helped build with Bill Belichick. And this is really why this matchup will be so great. I don't know who wants it more. I know Tom Brady, and the Jordan-like competitor he is, wants to stick it to the coach who tried to force him into retirement in favor of Jimmy Garoppolo and drop 40 on him. But I also know Bill Belichick has a sense of urgency about him to prove that last season's disappointment was just a one-time thing, and that he was the engine behind the greatest football dynasty of the modern era, not his quarterback. That sense of urgency became evident in how aggressive the Pats were in the free agency and in the draft, which I know Luke is a big fan of. But I can't wait for week 4 for this matchup. Matt, which one are you looking at?
Also, hint, Mac Jones might be playing as well.
Might be crazy.
Mine's pretty simple. Week 5, Bills at Arrowhead against the Chiefs, rematch of the AFC title game, and to really see can the Chiefs bounce back after their disastrous loss in the Super Bowl, and have they rebuilt that offensive line, and are the Bills the legitimate number 2 contenders in the AFC? I think last year was really impressive. I'm going with my Bills again, and we'll see. I'm excited for it.
My Bills, wow.
Yeah, I was the only one repping them on this show the entire playoff, so I might as well continue with it.
You're right.
And for me, in my head, mine's pretty simple as well. I'm going with the Week 17 Rams-Ravens matchup that could have huge playoff implications. A late season matchup by 2 of the NFL's best, a run-first team in the Ravens versus which will almost certainly be a pass-first team with the Rams, with Stafford now in town, both with top-tier defenses. This will be something to see. Who will win the first game between this future Super Bowl matchup? A full year of J.K. Dobbins in the backfield with Mark Ingram and now gone, and Sammy Watkins and Rashad Bateman coming to the rescue of Lamar Jackson. I think the Ravens will take it with their versatility, with the ability to run, and now with some extra pass catchers out there. That'll make Lamar Jackson that much more lethal. But in the playoffs, look out for Matt Stafford, a true standout vet with the best weapons he's had in his career. So I think this is a future Super Bowl matchup for me. I know I've said it on this show before.
You still on that, bro? You still hopping on that future Super Bowl matchup train between the Rams and the Ravens? That's what you still doing with us?
I'm still on it. Something just tells me I have that gut feeling, and whether it's going to be right or wrong, I got to stick to it. I'm not going to back down from it. That's what I said, and I'm sticking to my word.
So you think the Rams are going to finish better than the 49ers, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks this season?
I do. I think that excuse me.
Took your breath away with that question. You would expect it that one, huh?
I think that the Seahawks could pose a threat with Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Chris Carson. I really do like the Seahawks, but every year they throw up some duds that really make you wonder. The Cardinals added some nice pieces, but I don't think they're going to be there yet. And the 49ers, I am not a big 49ers fan. I think they'll finish last in the division. I think it'll go Rams, Seahawks, Cardinals, 49ers, in my opinion. And that's
so Matt Stafford. Let me ask you,
finish first in the division or not. The playoffs is a whole different animal.
Sure.
I think that the Rams and the Ravens will meet each other in the Super Bowl this year.
You think Matt Stafford, assuming Russell Wilson stays in Seattle, you think Matt Stafford is the what best quarterback in the NFC West?
2. I'm going to give it to Russell Wilson. Actually, you know what? That's a good question because you think about Kyler Murray. I think he's better than obviously Jimmy Garoppolo, but I don't think Kyler Murray is quite there yet. Kyler Murray is so good. He's my dynasty league QB. I love Kyler Murray. But I think I give that edge to Stafford right now just for that veteran know-how. And I'm going to have to go with probably Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, Kyler Murray, and then Jimmy Garoppolo rounding things out. But like I said, I can't back down from my word. It's what I said.
No, you cannot.
And it'll be a good clip to post on Twitter when my dream comes true later on in the year.
And vice versa. I can't wait to post it when that inevitably doesn't happen.
So we're going to see what happens. I'm definitely excited for this NFL season. It could not come soon enough. Matt, I'm just going to get out of here before you say something else. That's all the time we have from us here today at Chalk Talk. For myself, Matt Morris, and Scott Proctor, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week.